The research shows that, chronic cannabis use or high potency products does even change the structure of your brain cells, the structure that stays with when we study the adolescent exposure and look in adulthood. So it's not a make believe thing. It changes the structure of your cells. It also changes the re- how quickly your stress system reacts in a negative way. So all these stress related, um, your stress hormones, the genes that regulate a lot of the stress response, they are very high, especially when exposed to high potency THC products. And yes, withdrawal for cannabis, as you know, is actually one of the worst of many of the substance use disorders. You know, the depression, the sleep. Sleep is a huge aspect of many mental health many disorders. And I think that that's one of the things as well. But, the withdrawal from cannabis impacts sleep tremendously. So, again, many people think that cannabis is benign. Nothing is benign if it causes such huge impact on brain cells, on other cells in the body as well, but on the behavior and the long-term effects that we see. And from a research perspective, my question was, what maintains this? Why is it there? And we could see that these epigenetic changes and epigenetics, as we inherit the DNA sequence from our parents to to determine everything in our bodies and brain, but the environment can put tags on those DNA so that genes that should be turned off are now turned on and vice versa. And we see that developmental exposure to THC changes the epigenetic platform or the signature in our brain. And that signature, interestingly, looks like what we see in aspects of schizophrenia when we look in the brains of people who were diagnosed with schizophrenia. And it changes those epigenetic changes linked to how the cells communicate at the synapse. So these are things that are not, um, you know, fiction. These are actual scientific facts. High potency THC impacts the brain, it impacts fundamental biological processes that does have a long arc. Does it mean that you can't go back to normal? No. The one thing that I will say that when we saw that these changes were mediated by these epigenetic mechanisms, I actually was very hopeful because unlike genetics, you can't change the things you inherit, but epigenetic mechanisms are reversible. And so that to me gives hope. And that's why the earlier someone stops using cannabis, try to make it through that really tough withdrawal period, there is hope. And, you know, obviously on a research level, we're trying to see how we can target these epigenetic mechanisms. We can target them in an animal model and reverse the bad behavioral outcomes of developmental cannabis use, but trying to find ways that we can do that in humans in a healthy way.